Marvelous Halloween fiends and loathed ones, how are boo today? So, listen, last year I did a video on a Romhack called Pokémon Sweet version, and simply put, that ended up being one of my favorite videos that I have ever done on this channel. So this year, I really just want to talk about the sequel. If you haven't seen it already, you should probably watch the video I did on the first Pokémon Sweet version, but if you just don't wanna, Pokémon Sweet version was a 2014 ROM hack created by Strain42 and Chanini, where all the Pokémon were given new designs, new names, and even new typings all themed around desserts. I ended up really liking this ROM hack, and so when I was playing it and learned there was a sequel, I knew I'd want to play that as well. So let's dive into Pokémon Sweet 2nd. Oh, Sweet Tooth. That makes way more sense. I decided this time that I wanted to play as a girl, so instead of John Bond, this time I'm the much cuter Jonut. It's like a donut, except you can really taste the girl me. That is a weird sentence I just said. I also get to name my rival, and I called him Twinkie, because while I wasn't sad to see him gone after the first game, he managed to come back anyway. The game opens up on our birthday, and we head downstairs for a surprise party, where I get to open my presents, and Professor Sack of Rum says his present for me is waiting at his lab. Gee, I wonder what it could be. It's our very first Poké-Sweet. At the lab, we meet Mint and Almond, aka Alm, who are also getting Poké-Sweets, but we get to choose first since it's our birthday. Just like in the first title, you pick between Browniesaur, Squirpie, and Strawmander. Also, yes, I'm aware that due to character limitations, the Poké-Sweet is actually called Strawander, but the first game did call it Strawmander in text, so I'm sticking with that. This is also where I ran into my first personal roadblock. See, to give you all a bit of insight into how I play Pokémon, I have a rule where I only use Pokémon from that game's generation. So, for example, in Shield, I only trained Galar Pokémon. Obviously, this rule gets tweaked for remakes, but even in Let's Go Eevee, I played through most of that game using Alolan forms of Gen 1 Pokémon just to mix it up. And also because Alolan Raichu is so gosh dang adorable, just look at that little face! Heck, even in the upcoming Arceus title, I'll definitely be using as many Hisuian forms as I'm allowed. Because just look at that little face! The reason I'm bringing this up is because while the original Sweet version had 151 Poké-Sweets, Sweet Tooth has a whopping 386. So I went into this ROM hack having already decided that I would only be using Poké-Sweets that weren't in the original title. And since the starters are the same as the first game, I knew I wouldn't be using any of them on my team. So with that in mind, I went with Browniesaur again and named him Duncan Jr., which didn't stick for some reason. Anyway, I vow the first new Poké-Sweet I encounter will become my quote-unquote starter, which ended up being a Spearnana that I caught and promptly named Chiquita. So now with her, my journey can truly begin. Also, I picked my starter because I figured it didn't matter, but much to my surprise in this game, it actually does matter. See, from the starting town, you have access to 3 separate routes, one with a tree, one with water, and one with a boulder, and the starter you choose actually determines which of these routes you can get through. This was a pretty neat idea, but it also made me wonder if I was actually going to have to hold on to Duncan Jr. for longer than I was expecting, as I needed them in order to cut down this tree. Spoiler warning, it ended up being totally fine. More on that later. Before I get too far into this, I do want to say that I'd originally started a different playthrough where my starter was a Furfruit, and since he was a poodle who was an apple, I ended up naming him Poople, which made me laugh way harder than it should have. I didn't make it very far into Poople's journey before that file ended up getting wiped, but Poople was just too funny to me to not share it with you all. Okay, back to the real playthrough. Things start out pretty simple in Sweet Tooth. I get through the route and explore the Cupcake Forest, which is full of bug trainers and whatnot. This is also where I end up meeting Twinkie for the first time and earn myself a Mega Cherry since I started with Browniesaur. Since this is a post-Gen 6 Romhack, Mega Evolutions are a thing in this game, and this is actually why Sack of Rum sent us on our journey to begin with, so we could look into the Mega Poké-Sweet phenomenon. After escaping the forest, I got to Route 2, where I caught a Deviran because Nidoran male was the very first Pokemon I ever caught, and I had this huge wave of nostalgia wash over me when I saw this thing. Also, I love that male and female Nidoran are represented by Devil's Food Cake and Angel Food Cake. That is a really nice touch. I ended up naming him Roarer in reference to famed American food pioneer Sarah Tyson Roarer, who printed what may have been the very first recipe for Devil's Food Cake in her 1902 cookbook.
Does it really surprise anybody that I knew that offhand?
I eventually arrive in Candy City and challenge the first gym, which are now known as Battle Bakeries. Unfortunately for me, the first bakery specializes in apple types, which would have been great if I'd been training Duncan Jr., but Chiquita's banana typing puts her at a disadvantage, which made things difficult. Luckily, you can challenge the trainers in the bakery as much as you want, so I was able to evolve Chiquita into Firnana, and Roarer into Divino, and together the two of them took down Corey and his apple team. And the one strawberry type he used for some reason. After heading east, and after a quick rematch against Mint and Alm, I found my way into the Pumpkin Forest. In this spooky place, I caught my third-party Poké-Sweet in the form of Gascream. Seeing as how Haunter is my all-time favorite Pokemon, and it feels fitting to catch a Poké-Sweet version of a ghost type since this is technically a Halloween episode, I figured I had to add this thing to my team. And I've got the perfect name for it too. After all, we all scream for ice cream. And after getting through the forest, I was ambushed by a Mega Pumpkinette. All those mean things I said about not wanting to have it in my party last year have come back to haunt me. But thanks to Twinkie, I'm able to defeat it and save this small child from his best friend, the ghost. Oh, wait, I meant no thanks to Twinkie. I think I can technically use Mega Sweet evolutions now, though. No sooner than I arrive in Sugar City, I had to defeat a gang of bandits before being allowed to challenge the Battle Bakery of this city. Luckily for me, I made a little addition to my team on the route here. A spunky little Riolish I call Pit Kicker, cause she'll kick the pit out of you. Because she's a cherry type. I don't know if that was clear or not. Whatever. Pit Kicker, prepare to kick some... Okay, plan B. Roarer, you kick them until they stop moving. Anyway, with the bandits gone, I can now take on Midori's Battle Bakery, and she specializes in... I have no idea, actually. Most of the trainers in her gym use grape flavor Poké-Sweets. This one dude just uses the various chef-themed Poké-Sweets, regardless of type, and Midori herself does seem to use lime flavor Poké-Sweets, except for her two that aren't. So, if there was some sort of theme to this bakery, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you what it was. But I ended up winning, and after the fight, not only did Ice Cream evolve into Haunt Ice, but Roarer also grew into the fearsome and powerful Devaking. Now, it might look like part of his sprite got weirdly cut off here, but I'm going to assume that he merely ate part of his own arm, because... you ever had Devil's Food Cake? It's really good. Also, it turns out this was actually the fourth gym, which I guess makes sense when you consider the first gym you encounter is based on your starter, so now I've got to do a bit of backtracking to those other routes. Also, I caught one of these Bellsprout peanut things because, let's be real here, Planters is just far too good of a nickname for me to pass up. I get to Bunt City, which is where I would have fought the first Battle Bakery if I'd taken Strawmander, and I prepare to fight Sophia and her team of orange flavor Poké-Sweets. Obviously, I had very little preparing to do, since I was way higher level than her by this point, since I'd already taken down way stronger gym leaders. On to the first gym. Oh yeah, and I should also probably mention this. Remember how in the first game I had a bit of trouble with HMs, and I accidentally built a team that couldn't use any of the necessary ones? Well, as you sort of saw from the very start with Duncan Jr. cutting down that tree, the way it works in Sweet Tooth is that instead of actually getting and using HMs, if a Poké-Sweet could learn that move, they're just naturally able to do it. Basically, I'm really glad I grabbed Roarer, because it turns out he works for Cut, Strength, and Surf. And if I need to fly anywhere, well, obviously one of my oldest and most trusted allies can help me out there. Chiquita! Wake Roar up and tell him to fly me back to Cupcake Town, because that makes sense. While surfing down Route 13 to backtrack to the first city I'd visited on the Square Pie path, I caught myself a Jellybird. With a name like Smuckard, it has to be good. Except it's not, because it's basically a Delibird, but I'm committed to the bit. I've also got to swim my way through a crashed ship, but thankfully there are little kids around that I can beat up, allowing Planters to evolve into Wee Peanut. After I get to Bakewell Island, I take on a couple of these pie ladies around the town, and then challenge the Battle Bakery, which seems to be a callback to the first Sweet version by using both banana and lemon flavors. And while a Lieutenant Surge variation was absent from the first game, here we have Marcus, who uses both banana and lemon sweets. Fortunately for me, these types are weak against each other, and Planters has both types of moves in his arsenal. So I beat him into the ground so hard that Wee Peanut evolves into Victory Nut.
Man, that nut sure has been busting.
Like in the first game, you're able to re-challenge gyms if you want to earn some extra money or experience, which is nice, but can I say the leaders in this game feel a bit more lacking in my eyes. Like in the first Sweet version, Misty became Fizzy, and was an orange-flavored trainer whose gym contained a pool full of orange soda. I really liked that theming, and it helped flesh out the world of Sweetland in an interesting way. Here though, Sophia, Corey, Marcus? I'm curious if the leaders were just named after people who worked on the game, or friends or fans or something, because as far as I can tell, there's virtually no dessert-themed charm or aesthetic to any of these characters or their gyms, and it does feel like a bit of a step backwards to me. I guess Corey is arguably an apple pun, so maybe there are jokes here, and they're just too subtle for my ignorant palate. And by this point, I'm realizing the game is pretty non-linear, so I just decide to make my way to any city I can and see if there's anything for me to do there. I decide to stay north and head to Sunday City, where I encounter the Battle Bakery of Koniro, who uses blueberry-flavored Poke-Sweets. Now, since Blueberry is weak against Lime, I could just let Planters wipe the floor with them again. But Blueberry is also weak against Strawberry. Here's the thing. Remember Pit Kicker, my cherry strawberry flavored fighter, who even well into her 30s doesn't know a single cherry or strawberry attack? Well, she ended up evolving into Lucario and learned a grape punch. Hey, Pit Kicker, I've already got Haunted Ice Cream that can do that, and he gets stabbed from it. I'm really starting to question what you bring to this party, and as a reminder, I'm still raising Smuckard for some reason. But, okay, I end up defeating Koniro, win my 5th badge, and make my way to Lemonade Port, a seaside town currently being attacked by pirates. So, just like before, I can't challenge the Battle Bakery of this town until I take them all out. Also, see this guy here? Do not read his letter. Froze my whole game. Not fun. Had to fight the pirates all over again. But once they're all run off, I'm free to fight Kokai, who transforms from Sabrina to Blaine for some reason. Much like Midori, I'm not 100% sure what flavor this gym is supposed to represent. I guess Kokai uses mostly grape-flavored Poke-Sweets, again, except for the ones that aren't. And not to sound like a broken record here, but Pit Kicker, grape is weak against cherry. Why do you not have any moves from the types that you are? I guess grape is also weak against blueberry and orange, which Smuckard is, but again, it's a Delibird, so... Now that I was done with the 6th bakery, I wasn't actually sure where I needed to go, so I consulted the map and it looked like I had 2 options. I could either head back north and go through the Tirograta to get to Frappe City, or surf east through Sorbet Island to get to Glace City. And since I like to think I'm not an idiot, I elected for the one that didn't involve surfing. Inside the Tirograta, I had to deal with a group of bandits named Spade, Dia, Club, and Jack before taking down the bandit leader, Dealer, who uses a Mega Berry to evolve her Gulpie into... I guess it's supposed to be Mega Gulpie, but it looks the same. Oh yeah, and remember Twinkie, the professor's assistant, and that quiet nerd who hasn't really done much of anything throughout this entire game? Well, he's discovered the true power behind Mega Poke-Sweets and wants to use them for himself, so we've got to fight him now. This was actually a pretty nice surprise. We had Chiquita going head-to-head with another Fear Nana, and we even took down his Mega Goman, which, again, didn't really change any. I get a few more Mega Sweet items that, much like Mega Evolutions in the real game, I'm never going to use, and we continue to Frappe City. This battle bakery has us fighting Serena, who is a Sabrina sprite that doesn't transform into an old man, and she specializes in chocolate flavor sweets. Now, if you remember, chocolate is only weak against itself, so it's a bit of a gamble for me to use Roarer here, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I said I'm sure it'll be fine. That's better. As I'm heading out of town, I've got to fight Alm and Mint again, but they really don't bring anything special to the table this go around, and I make it to the city with the final battle bakery, Glace City. And holy crap, there's so much to do here. We've got the big department store. I can actually buy TMs here. And look! Dig! It's a strawberry move. I can finally teach Pit Kicker a move she'll actually get stabbed from. All I've got to do is use this TM and... This town also has the Game Corner, and unlike the first Sweet version, there is a secret Team Rocket hideout down here. But thankfully, Cheerwine took them all out no problem. What's that? You don't remember Cheerwine, my cherry strawberry flavored Candygon that's totally able to get stabbed from both of its types and has absolutely been with me this entire time?
No, I am not bitter. I'm just a little tart, like a good cherry should be.
Also, this whole section is super weird. Like, I'm just fighting Team Rocket, not Team Sour from the original game. I still get the Sylph Scope for beating Giovanni, even though I don't think I need to use it on anything. This dude still says I foiled their plans at Mount Moon, even though I've never been there or met any of these people. Heck, they even flat out call them Pokémon here instead of Poké-Sweets. It just feels really odd and out of place in this world, almost like it wasn't actually supposed to be here. But with that out of the way, it's time for the final battle bakery against the vanilla trainer, Thomas. Not only is his gym just a big pool, but his chefs are, You okay there, buddy? You want to battle, or you good? He's good. I actually had a lot of fun battling Thomas, because vanilla types have no resistances or weaknesses, so each of his sweets just felt like an opportunity to test out every member of my team. Except Smuckert, obviously. And they all did wonderfully. I had a super fun battle, and I've now earned my final badge. Or, medal. They're called medals in this game, I don't think I ever mentioned that. And now it's time for me to head to my final challenge through Rocky Road, and while going through this trial, Ice Cream finally started to evolve. And then he didn't.
Gee, I wonder why that happened. And why it continued to happen every time he leveled up after that.
At the very end, we bump into Twinkie again, who has apparently just defeated and even dismembered Chocobun and Dark Chocobun, neither of whom had really been mentioned up to this point as far as I know. But for those of you out of the loop, these two godlike Poké-Sweets created the entirety of Sweetland. So now we need to fight Twinkie, who tells us that it really doesn't matter if we beat him because he can just go heal his sweets at the Poké-Sweet Center, which is kind of a good point. Once I make it through to Cake Castle, I've once again gotta fight the Pastriots.
I get it.
Just like in the first game, all 4 Pastriots have full teams of level 50 Poké-Sweets, so there isn't necessarily any big ramp up in difficulty. But I do think their teams are really well constructed this time around. First up, we've got Lilith, who uses a variety of ice cream themed sweets. Next up is the powerful Hikaru, who uses mostly cake themed sweets, but I'm able to take him down exactly according to Keikaku. Then there's Amy, and okay, I don't know what her theme is, but the final member of this Elite Four is Tsurugi, who uses some of the most powerful Poké-Sweets based on dragon Pokémon, and also Halucha. But I finally defeat him, and he tells me many challenges still await for me just beyond that door. So I go through it, and I'm back at the Pokémon Center before the Pastriots?
Well, that was a bit anticlimactic.
Nah, I'm just kidding. We've still got to defeat Twinkie, remember? Now, here's the thing. In order to enter the Inverse Castle, where Twinkie is, I must obtain all 12 Mega Sweet items. Most of these we'd gotten throughout our journey, but I was still missing a few here and there. I got the Mega Banana in Rocky Road, and ended up having to go to Sorbet Island for the Mega Cone. I eventually had all but two, the Mega Lollipop and the Mega Pie, both of which I'd have gotten on one of the starter paths. But for some reason, I can't seem to get these. The characters I'm supposed to get them from seem a bit glitched out or something, and I was kinda worried that I'd soft-locked myself out of getting this game's proper ending. Luckily for me, I think the game thinks I have them even though I don't, so it just lets me enter the Inverse Castle anyway. It's time for one final showdown with Twinkie and his elite team of all Mega Poké Sweets. This team is made up of the most powerful, the most intense, the most not safe for work booberific Poké Sweets in the world. It's a fairly intense battle, and Smuckerd can't save us this time. But through a lot of teamwork, we eventually persevere and put a stop to Twinkie once and for all by force-feeding him so much cake that he can't move anymore. Great job, team. I couldn't be more proud of each and every one of you. And Pit Kicker, if you're watching this, I'm sorry I let you waste so much of my time training you. Overall, Pokémon Sweet Tooth is a bit of an odd dish. Most of its strengths are perfectly balanced out by its faults. An increased cookbook size resulted in fewer detailed sprites, as most back sprites are just, at best, slightly edited front sprites. I also want to mention that a lot more artists worked on this title compared to the first one, like PikaFan2000, That Random Spriter, and Draconite545. I think this is why we have so many fun and unique sweets, but I think it's also why certain sweets' art styles seem so different from other ones. You know, like those guest demons from Shin Megami Tensei 4. A more open world results in less direction where and when things need to occur, and less memorable cities. Some of the nice quality of life upgrades, like Pokeballs not breaking and the revamped HM system, is balanced out by what feels like an overall buggier experience than the previous Sweet version. A glitch I regularly encountered was the music getting stuck and being forced to listen to a single droning note in the background until I saved and reset the game. I want to be clear, I definitely still enjoyed Sweet Tooth, and a lot of the new Poké Sweets were as fun and memorable as ever. I already mentioned how much I loved what they did with the Nidoran families, but then there are also ones like Chirp. If I had to recommend just one of these games, I think the original was probably the stronger experience overall. If Sweet version is a fantastic dessert, Sweet Tooth is more like an after-dinner mint, albeit one of those nicer mint chocolate ones you get from, like, Olive Garden. It's still enjoyable and satisfying, but you might not remember it as fondly once it's all over. These are both very good and worthwhile ROM hacks, and the very idea of Poké Sweets is one that I'm really attached to, from the new names to the new designs, the new type chart. It's all a lot of fun, and I'm not sure what Ephraim225 has planned for the future, but I will say this.
If you're watching this, you have got to let me know if you're doing a third one, because I have some great ideas written down here.
Oh, right. And happy Halloween. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, be sure to click like, but if you really liked it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Extra special thanks to all my friends and loved ones over on Patreon, which you can pledge to today to see your own name in these ending credits. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care.